Thank you all for coming. This is such an honor to be here at Offsquare Books and to be with all of you. We're very, very appreciative and excited. And Katherine, so you have brought your fifth child into the world with this book. And there are many people who are here who enjoy creative endeavors. I mean, this is a spot on the face of the universe where there are lots and lots of people who do write or believe, and I believe with them, that they have stories within them that are wanting to be told and need to be told. So I have a hunch that some of the interest in your crowd tonight is to find out what sparks your ideas, how you go about the writing process. So we're going to address some of that. But
okay.
But to keep it new, and since we've already done this song and dance, I brought along a few props that people might also think are kind of interesting.
Oh boy!
So have y'all seen this book, the Writer's Brush, that has the art of various authors in it? Well, I was thinking about this whole prospect of parents interviewing children who are authors, and for some reason this morning I went to the shelf in the library and I brought out this book, which my brother gave to me for my birthday a few years ago, and I love this book. On one page we have a spread of William Faulkner's art when he was a young man, before he made it as a writer. And I start wondering, where did this come from? How did they find it? And it's there in the margins. It tells you that this drawing was in the archives in Ole Miss in the special collections. So, and going through the rest of the book too, there are all of these various authors that are in there, and somebody out there has kept their kids' stuff. You know how that is. Of course we have. So I've kept some stuff. I'm going to try really hard not to do it. But one thing I've got in here is, well, this is a relatively early thing. Do you remember this? I didn't know that Katherine did this originally. I thought my nephew had done it because he's an artist and studied, art at Tufts and all. And this is actually Tolstoy, and that's who you chose to do to copy and do something in the manner of.
Well, I mean, he was very good looking.
Yeah, he was.
Apparently.
And
or
so,
I made him so.
So that was some early art we could have had in the book for Katherine. And then I just thought this would be kind of fun in light of covers. And y'all know what an interesting thing is, like the choice of covers. And you may have read Ann Patchett's essay on the business of covers and how it's very distressing when you're working with the editor and you're trying to come up with your covers. Well, this was something from 7th grade art. And it really hold that for me, my prop keeper. And it reminded me of what we could have done for the Vicious Circle, which had jaguars, not panthers, but
I guess you guys thought we were going to talk about Sunburned.
Well, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. This is the embarrassing things that a parent can get away with, maybe once in a while. But that would have been a great cover. We could have done something
better.
in my humble opinion. We could have done something with that. I have one more little thing in here to ask you about. My brother-in-law in Jackson said to me, he said, "What is there that you could possibly ask Katherine that you don't know the answer to?" And there are many things. Like, I don't know the answer to this. Okay, some of you may be able to see who's in this picture right here. It's Eudora, and it's Charlotte Capers and Lester Center. Okay, and there. Katherine, do you remember when Eudora Welty came up on the front porch and you were in the porch swing reading? Do you remember what she said to you at our house?
No.
I didn't think you did. I didn't think you did. I've tried to ask you this question before, but I don't think anybody ever listens. So Eudora said, Frank, what did she say? Do you remember what she said?
She said that she used to, she said, I was just like that.
Yeah, she said, there I am.
I was always
Here I am. So that's a great lead into, to tonight. So there we have it. And and I want that's it on that. But for the book, Katherine, this was an interesting beginning. You had 20 women named, or I think, at the beginning. Tell us about how the seed idea, how this book started.
So this book started with a trip to St. Barth's for one of my best friend's 40th birthday. And it was a group of 20 of us. There were 12 women and 8 of whom brought their husbands. I did not. And we had the best time. And one of the things that they tell you, when you're the people that are, taking care of you when you're there, is that St. Barth's has a murder rate of 0. And so I immediately was like, well, I'm going to have to do something about that. Okay, fine, I'll set a murder mystery here. So I absolutely love the island. One thing that's very different about St. Barth's from the rest of the Caribbean, I love all of the Caribbean. I love islands in general. But it's very French. It really does feel like you are in the south of France, but also in the Caribbean. And so that's such a different environment and so unique. And it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of the bars and restaurants that are in the book are real places, one of which is a costume bar where there's lots of dancing and drinking and carrying on, but they have a big costume closet where you can go in and dress as a pirate or whatever you like. And I thought, what a fun place to have like a chase scene, to have somebody, stalking somebody else in a costume bar where you really can conceal your identity. So there were some really fun things about the island that I drew on in writing this particular book.
And how did people there respond to the book? You want to tell us about that?
Well, my friends did throw me a party in Atlanta. The same friends that I went to St. Barth's with, they threw me a party to celebrate the book coming out, and Eden Rock Resort, which is where we stayed, sent us all this swag. So I was very impressed that they were very nice and very hospitable to send us a bunch of stuff for the party.
Considering that they have no murders on that island too. So, well, St. Barth's really sounds like a paradise, and you've set other novels in other paradise sorts of settings, and we all have different notions of paradise, but I think there's a universal one that even people who love and maybe even prefer the mountains still have a fetish for the ocean and the water and all. So, but the paradise always has a problem. The snake, wiggles its way into the garden. And so that happens in this paradise setting too. If the setting is a character, which I do believe in many of your novels it is, what is the character of the place of St. Barth's like? How would you describe it?
Obviously, it has a beautiful exterior. It has a very glossy exterior, but I am fascinated by things that are not what they appear to be on the surface. And so I think that's one of the reasons that I love setting my books in these beautiful settings, places that you'd want to go and places that I indeed do want to go while I'm writing the book for a year every day in my head. So that's nice for me, and also I hope for the readers, but also having things happen there that are terrible, and bad things can happen anywhere, and sometimes paradise really can cover up secrets because we're so distracted by all of the beauty and all of the glamour that we're not seeing all the dirty things that are getting swept up underneath the rug. And this book definitely deals with some dirty things that have gotten swept up under the rug over the years. And our protagonist comes to the island when she's called there by her ex-boyfriend, who she hasn't seen in 10 years. And in the 10 years since they broke up, he has become a billionaire from desalination technology. And he has also transformed from a person who was once magnetic in more of a positive way into a person who is very magnetic in a very negative way. And the success has not made him a happy person. So she walks into that, and that's where we start the story.
You jumped ahead to something I wanted to get into later, but you gave me a great segue into it, so we're going to do that. I'm going to let you read. But before she reads, I wanted to say, one of the things that I've really enjoyed watching is the development of character in your fiction. And these characters are multifaceted, even though the Tyson character that she was just describing, who calls Audrey, the protagonist, to the island, has, at times he's described as like a black hole. I mean, his soul and the way he behaves. He still is not without flashes of goodness and moments of generosity, which come out during the course of the work. And the character even makes a statement further into the book. The Audrey character, who the protagonist, says that she longs for him to return to his former self, because they knew each other when they were like in high school and then at the beginning of college. They were very, very close. But when we first meet him, you do a really banged up good job of allowing the setting to disturb our sensibilities, the writer as well as Audrey. We're unsettled by the setting that he has created for his living space, and it's for me it was reminiscent of Edgar Allan Poe's Ligeia, which is a lot of fun. So it's on page 44 if you want to find. Yeah. She's going to read to us a little bit. Is that good with y'all? Are y'all willing to hear?
So this is just after Audrey has arrived in St. Barth's. Tyson sent his jet for her and kind of gave her no way to refuse him. And this is the first time she has seen him in 10 years. My heart rate increased steadily as Laurent led me down the stairwell to Tyson's private terrace, where he rapped gently on the wide wooden door. After a moment that felt like a lifetime, the door swung open, revealing the man I'd once been in love with. He was barefoot, dressed in loose, natural linen pants and a matching collarless button-front shirt, a mixture of leather and silver jewelry around his neck and wrists, his dark hair Jesus long. He was gaunt, his formerly tawny skin sallow, the hollows beneath his eyes giving him a haunted appearance. He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. I covered my shock with a smile as he ran a hand through his hair, looking me up and down without comment. "Tyson," I said, "good to see you." When he didn't reply, Laurent filled the silence. "Dinner will be ready at 8. Tyson opened the door wider and retreated into the depths of his suite without a word, leaving me to throw a distressed glance at Laurent. "Don't take it personally," he said quietly. I could smell sage burning somewhere as I crossed the threshold and closed the door behind me, allowing my eyes to adjust to the gloom. Only one side of the vestibule was open, so I went that way, coming around the corner into another full kitchen open to a dining room. It wasn't just the heavy blackout drapes covering the windows that made it darker down here. The surfaces of the kitchen were gunmetal gray, the cabinets above sleek and black. A modern brass chandelier burned low above a walnut dining table where Tyson was seated at the head of the table, a glass of something that looked like sludge before him. The temperature was somewhere in the vicinity of iceberg, and goosebumps prickled my arms as I pulled out a chair and sat, placing my backpack in the empty seat between us. He looked at it as though it might contain venomous snakes. "Leave that outside," he said quietly. "It has my computer and my notebooks." "You don't need it. Leave it outside." I frowned, assessing him. It wasn't just his physical appearance. His whole aura was different, darker, still just as magnetic, but with a heaviness that hadn't been there before. I rose and hefted the backpack. Once I dropped it outside the door, I returned to the table, but he stopped me before I could sit. "Put your arms out," he said, rising. "What?" He sighed as though exhausted. "I need to make sure you're not wired." "Wired?" I laughed. "Would you have called me down here if you thought there was any chance I'd be wearing a wire?" He held his ground, and I extended my arms, trying not to cringe while he felt around my torso. He paused with his hands on my back, inhaling me the way a wolf does a rabbit, and I shuddered to think I used to crave those cold hands on my body. "You'll need to wash those harmful chemicals off your skin," he said gruffly, letting me go. "What?" "It's bad for your health and the odor gives me a headache. Laurent should have told you." Gathering that he was referring to my perfume, I nodded, dropping into my seat. No wonder he smelled different now, his formerly ubiquitous cologne replaced with whatever herbs and supplements were leaking through his skin. "Are you unwell?" I asked gently. That would explain a lot. He snorted, those dark eyes flashing. "I'm healthier than I've ever been." I nodded, crossing my arms. So that's how this was going to go. "Why am I here?" He slid a long white envelope across the table to me. I picked it up, noting it was addressed in neat block lettering to him here at Le Rêve. There was no return address, but it was postmarked with my home zip code, which had been his parents' as well until they sold their property after Hurricane Irma ripped the roof off of their house and destroyed the orange grove. "Open it," he instructed. I lifted the flap and extracted a clipping of a newspaper article with the headline, "Latest Foot Identified as Missing Miami-Dade County Resident Ian Kelly." "I've read this," I said. His eyes bored holes into me. "Why did you send it to me?" "What?" I asked, thrown. "I didn't send this to you." "Then who did?" "I have no idea." I placed the envelope on the table between us, shaking my head. "Wait, back up. Is this why you called me down here?" "What do you want from me?" I blinked at him, trying to gauge where he was coming from. "What are you talking about? Money? A job? What? No, you invited me." "You may think you have the upper hand here, but we go down together," he growled. "What would your sons do then, huh?" I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping over the tile as I shot to my feet. "What the fuck, Tyson?" I was shaking. "I don't want anything from you, and I didn't send you that article, though I do think we should talk about its contents." "Why? So you can record our conversation? Are you working with the feds?" "The feds?" I shook my head. Talk about paranoia. "I don't know what is going on with you, but I had nothing to do with any of it. Keep your money. I'm going home. I'll find somewhere else to stay for the night." Anger roiled in my veins as I stormed toward the door. To think I'd come all the way down here for him to accuse me of what? I wasn't even sure. "You're forgetting I have evidence," he said without rising. I spun to face him. "Of what?" His face was placid. "The statute of limitations may be up, but you think the attorneys and law enforcement agencies your little firm works with will continue to trust you with their confidential information once they know that you're a thief and a liar?" It was all I could do not to smack him. "I know your secrets too," I said through gritted teeth. "Yes," he smiled, the asshole. He was actually enjoying this. "But it would be very difficult for you to spill them without implicating yourself. And once I destroy your reputation, who do you think people will believe?" "Fuck you, Tyson," I spat. "What do you want from me?" Now we're getting somewhere. He pointed at the chair opposite him. "Sit down." My knees wobbled as I sat heavily into the chair, staring daggers at him. "If you want me to believe you didn't send this," he said, tapping the envelope, "then tell me who did."
Well, as you can see, the characters have they have a lot of spikes. They have a lot of we have characters, warts and moles and golden bits of diamonds too. What makes the protagonist so delicious and having a larger dimension is the fact that she's so believable. How she came to be in the position that she's in. She was a youngster when she came to know Tyson, and she had extenuating circumstances that caused her to give up her college career to raise money to see a loved one through cancer treatment, special cancer treatment that wasn't, it was experimental and very costly. And in the course of that, there was some things that happened where she was helped by Tyson, and there were some mistakes made, which young people are heir to. Lots of interesting mistakes. And so it has this appeal when you're reading it that the business of how, but for the grace of God, there go you or I. I mean, there are ways, you made it very believable that something like this could happen to you, and you would have to live through the consequences of it. Another thing about your Audrey character is that she's brave, she's plucky, she pushes through to discover new strengths. One time you describe her as recalibrating. She has that capacity. And so in many ways, although this is just a good murder mystery, you have a character who fits into the American myth of, like, the American Adam, which R.W.B. Lewis wrote about. And it's not a male, it's not Huckleberry Finn, but it's an innocent. You could say it's an American Eve, and which is good. I mean, we need women characters like this in our fiction. So I say bravo. It'll be interesting for those of you who are interested in that, like the development of, American themes and subject matter, to read it even on that level. So bravo, kudos on that. And the fact that it is a murder mystery, that's slightly different too this time, is it not?
It is. All of my books have been escapist thrillers, the escapist part being that they're set somewhere beautiful with rich people behaving badly, and the thriller part being there is a murder. But none of them have been murder mysteries per se in the way that this one is. And I wanted to write a murder mystery, and I thought that would be fun, and it really was fun, because you have to have this cast of characters, and you have to give them all a reason they could have done it, and motive and opportunity to have done it. And so that you want to lead people to think, oh, it could be this person. Oh, no, it could be that person. And without that cast of characters that all have motive and opportunity, then you can't really have a very good murder mystery. So it was a lot of fun for me creating these characters, giving them reasons to have murdered the person who dies, and opportunity. It was a lot of fun. The actual murder itself takes place underwater. It's during a dive, which is a really cool way for a murder to take place. And I actually quizzed a dive instructor about, okay, so if I wanted to murder somebody underwater, how would I do it? And I'm like, there were some other divers that were there, and everybody kind of spitballed, okay, how would you murder somebody? And the way that the person dies is we felt the best way to murder someone while diving.
How many of you saw My Friend the Octopus, the documentary that about I think he was a National Geographic photographer and a marine biologist, and it's an amazing story. It's mostly conveyed through photography of how he comes back from losing his connection, kind of in his hopefulness as a person. He's suffering from depression, and he does it by diving. It's you have to cool your jets to watch it, and because it's slow the way that it's presented, but it's so the opposite what goes on underwater in your book. The suspense is just breathtaking and very frightening. How many of you do have kind of a secret worry that the car might go over on the bridge, or how are you, and I can't stand submarine thrillers. They frighten me to death. The idea of being underwater and not being able to breathe or whatever. That plays into it a lot. The readers start squirming, even though it's gorgeous when they first go down. That alone is fabulous. Having seen My Friend the Octopus recently,
well,
reading
it's a fun. I think that you also, as a writer, you want to do things that haven't been done a million times, and that's hard to do because there's only so many stories that we have to tell. It's how you tell them that makes them different. And so I thought it would be really cool to set a sequence underwater because I personally had not read anything set with a sequence like that before.
Something else that maybe have been new for you this time is the whole business of really being a proper mystery. Did you encounter, have you encountered readers with predilections about what constitutes a mystery for them and doesn't constitute a mystery? Is that, I wondered about
There
that.
are definitely readers who are mystery readers. And I think that there's different breeds of mystery reader. You have the mystery reader who really just wants to like the protagonist and be along with them, to enjoy being with them as they solve the mystery. And then you have the breed of mystery reader who wants you to surprise them. And so you kind of have to please both of them. But if there's, if you have 10 main suspects, then just chance dictates that 1/10 of people are going to choose the right person when they go into thinking, oh, it's going to be this person. So 1/10 of the people you're going to disappoint because they randomly got it right. So there's nothing you can do about that. But I hope to lead people as you're going to, oh, it could be this person. Nope, not that person. Could be this person. Wait a minute, maybe I was wrong, and then take them back. So that's really part of the fun with a mystery.
I think that's really funny. I mean, because we all have our druthers. I can't stand it when they solve the murder mystery in the last 3 minutes, and everything took place off stage, and it's like, and they haven't presented any of it. They just happened to go into town and they found some new evidence, and then they come back, and so we didn't get to act with the discovery.
I can promise you that does not happen in this book.
No, and
without giving anything away.
And it's shocking how believable it is that any single one of them could have performed the murder, which I love it when it's like that. I even like it when everybody did participate in the murder.
Agatha Christie.
But has anybody got a question they would like to put to Katherine, like about anything?
I have one. Why did you change from St. John to Wood?
Oh boy, everybody asked me
Here we go again.
Here we go again.
I can remember Wood. I could never remember St. John.
That's basically why. So when I've had a lot of names. My full name is Katherine Randolph Wood Petrovich is my married name. When I was acting, I was Katherine Randolph, and I knew I wanted a separation from Randolph. Wood is a very common name. I didn't want to use Petrovich because I'm not of Russian heritage, and that would be confusing. So I, the morning that my book was going out, my agent asked me, what name do you want to submit under? And I was kind of like, and I kind of went through a list of family names, and St. John is a family name from, back there in the family. And so I kind of picked it out of a hat without thinking too much about it. And then I had to use it, and it's not really my name. And so I, after writing 3 books under Katherine St. John, I was like, I just want to use my real name. And my publisher was fine with it. And so I did change it back to my real name, but it has caused a lot of questions and a lot of confusion, and so I probably should have just stuck with whatever I should have just done Katherine Wood to begin with, but I didn't, and so here we are.
I talked to somebody who worked at a bookstore the other day, and she said she has written her 2nd book, and I said, no, it's her 5th.
It's not, yeah. This is why it's confusing. Yeah.
Look at this. Look it up under this name, and then you'll get 3 more.
Right. So, well, you all know now. So.
Katherine, what about your the how you go about structuring your day as a writer? You've already sent, your 6th book is already out for a read, right?
Well, when my agent gets back from maternity leave.
Yeah. So how does this happen? That's very enviable, and tell us how you do that.
I am obsessed with writing. It's I love doing it so much. I am very, very fortunate to be able to do it as a career because I just love it so much. I'm best in the morning. I drop my kids off at school. I get a big cup of coffee and I sit down in my office and open my laptop. And that's usually when I get my best work done, is like those 4 hours before lunch. And then anytime I get stuck, I go for a walk. Something about being in motion helps me unstick my mind. But I work every day, and you're not always inspired. Some days I write 3 sentences. Some days I write 3,000 words. It depends on the day and whether I am feeling inspired or not. But I honestly love the editing process even more than I love writing the first draft, because with the editing process, you've already put everything together. Some brilliant person once said that writing a first draft is like scooping sand into a sandbox, knowing that later you will make sandcastles. And it's really nice when the sand is already in the sandbox, because you have something to shape. So I really do enjoy the editing process, but I enjoy every aspect of it. I feel very fortunate. And I saw that there was a question back there.
For how long did you contemplate channeling Patricia Highsmith the way you did in Lady Killer?
Oh boy, I've always been a Patricia Highsmith fan, and really the opportunity with Lady Killer was so ripe, and I that was very enjoyable for me. To channel her without copying her, I would say it's inspired by, but not based on anything of hers. Another book that honestly inspired that book, Lady Killer is my last book, for those of you who don't know, and it's set in Greece, is Ernest Hemingway's The Garden of Eden, which is his last unfinished book, also very much inspired Lady Killer. Yes, Sir Francis.
Do you know the end as you're writing? Do you know how it's going to end, or are you discovering as you're writing your characters and different motivations?
I have to know where I'm going. I do a lot of, like, when I'm getting started with a book, I kind of keep like a running Word doc in my computer and in my phone, because ideas will come to me in no particular order. And wherever it is that is my jumping off place, like with Sunburned, my jumping off place was, I want to set something in St Barth and I want to do a murder mystery. So that was my jumping off place. And then what ended up inspiring me is I read an article about these feet, without bodies, that were washing up in the Sound in Washington State, like in Seattle. And I was like, oh wow, that's a cool thing to have happen, to start. So I pulled that piece in, so like I kind of start grabbing pieces from around, and they all kind of start going into this document, and it starts taking shape. And by the time I start writing, I have to know where I'm going. But like I will say that the path always meanders, right? So like I don't get there the way I thought I was gonna get there, but I end up going where I wanted to go. And a lot of times my final twist will come in the second draft, because I'll write a kind of the straight first draft that's like getting all that sand in the sandbox. And then I'm like, okay, all right, working with what I have now, I've created these characters, these people are real. What would they do that would be a little bit more surprising? What would they do? What else? How can this be just one step further? And that's usually where I find that final twist. So like with this one, you're going to think it's somebody at the end, and then you're going to find out that it's like at the very end that it's somebody else, right? So that with my first draft, the person that which it is a twist, it's like that, and that was going to be the twist. And I was like, nah, we're going to take this one step further. And then, and that actually, like, I will feel after writing my first draft unsatisfied with because whatever it is, I'd thought of it. And there's like with writing thrillers and mysteries, if I've thought of it, like I feel like my readers might have thought of it. So if I can go deeper and I can find something better and something more interesting that really makes sense in the story, I definitely want to do that. Surprising. Sometimes you have to surprise yourself.
And she's really good at torturing her characters. I mean, not everybody is very good at that.
Yes.
So you mentioned acting, and I don't know your background at all. So I guess, were you writing
while you did that as well? And then would you be interested in writing an alternative format for like screen or stage or anything?
I had stopped acting by the time that I was writing. Writing this. I've always been a storyteller, and when I was younger, it was acting is a form of storytelling, but your body is your instrument. And obviously, with writing books, your words are your instrument. So my acting experience definitely informs my books. Like, I'm able to really get into a character's head and think like them, which I think is very, very useful. I also, use it in making sure that we're not jumping the shark. So you guys know what that means, jumping the shark. Like, making sure that things are real and that that the characters are behaving like real people behave. It drives me nuts when I read something and I'm like, nope, that wouldn't happen. Nope, that person wouldn't do that. So I really that acting experience is very good for all of that. I'm a big reader, and I'd always wanted to write a book, but had never had time. And I'd come up with the idea for my first book, The Lion's Den. And I was like, oh, this needs to be a book. And it was based on a trip that I had taken. And I was like, how do I turn this into a book? And I was playing with it for years until I kind of figured out what I wanted to do with it. And I had 2 little girls back to back, and they were babies. And I decided to stay home with them for a year and write this book. So I called that book the Nap Time Novel because I wrote it while they were napping. So I also I had experience writing, though, my husband and I had a production company, a small production company. We did independent movies and commercials and that kind of thing. And so I am now adapting 2 of my books for television. One, Lady Killer with Universal, and The Lion's Den with Legendary Entertainment. And I'm actually writing those adaptations for TV as well. Yeah. So, which is a lot of fun because it's a completely different medium. You have such different things available to you when television is very visual, and books, you're in somebody's head, so they're completely different, and you need different things, especially with television. It's interesting because TV is similar to books in that it's told in chapters, but they're longer chapters. I mean, a book with only 8 chapters that'd be kind of annoying, right? We want to have more chapters than that to give you stopping places in a book, but for television, so it's kind of making them into these longer chapters where you're going to have a cliffhanger at the end of each episode. So same but different.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much for coming.
And Catherine's going to be signing, I guess. Are you going to sign up there, or are you going to sign back here? Sign right here. There you go.
Yep, and all your books over there.
Thank you.
Okay, Mom.